The skies above Earth were supposed to be peaceful that morning. Birds flew across the clouds and sunlight bathed the green hills. But then the sky tore open with a loud sound like thunder, and fire rained from the stars. No one had expected war to begin like this. There was no warning, no message, just a sudden attack from alien ships that darkened the skies. People screamed and ran as explosions lit the cities below. Governments reacted fast, but their weapons were weak against the invaders. Fighter jets were crushed midair. Tanks rolled in only to be thrown aside like toys. It was not a fair battle. It was a slaughter. The aliens were called the Zevra. They were tall, armored, and merciless. With 4 eyes and sharp blades built into their suits, they looked like monsters from nightmares. But among them was one warrior who was feared the most. She moved like lightning, her sword cutting through metal and flesh. No human could stand against her. Soldiers gave her a name in whispers, the Ghost Blade. She never spoke, never paused, and never showed mercy. Across ruined cities, her name spread like fire. Mothers held their children closer when they heard it. Even the bravest fighters trembled when they saw her shadow fall across the ground. But far from the war front, in a small bunker deep underground, a young man named Ethan repaired old comm systems. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't even brave. But he listened to every message that passed through the broken wires. That's when he first heard her voice. Not through screams or orders, but a soft whisper from a broken alien transmitter. It was cracked, barely clear, but he heard one thing: "I am tired of killing. I never wanted this." Ethan froze. He played the message again and again. Could it be real? Could the Ghost Blade have a soul, a voice, a heart behind the mask? He didn't know why, but something in him believed it was true. He recorded the message and tried to send it to command. But no one listened. They called it a trick, a trap. They told him to stay away from it. But he couldn't stop thinking about her voice. The next day, the Zevra attacked a military outpost nearby. Ethan was ordered to evacuate, but instead of running, he went out to the ruins with his recorder, searching for the source of the voice. Smoke covered the sky. The ground shook with each blast. Soldiers fired and screamed. But Ethan walked forward, heart pounding, looking through the wreckage for her. And then he saw her, standing alone in the ashes, sword dripping, armor glowing red. Her 4 eyes locked onto him. For a second, no one moved. He raised his hand slowly, not to fight, but to show he had no weapon. His other hand held a recorder. He pressed play and let the voice echo through the smoky air. Her eyes widened slightly. Her grip on the sword loosened. For the first time, the Ghost Blade hesitated. The battlefield fell silent around them, as if the war paused to watch. Ethan's voice was calm. "Was it you?" he asked. "Did you say that? That you didn't want this war?" The alien warrior stepped forward. Blades retracted. The glow of her armor dimmed. And in a voice quiet like the wind, she answered, "Yes." Ethan stood still while dust blew around them. The ruins of the outpost were silent now. Even the distant sound of gunfire had faded. In front of him stood the most feared alien warrior of the war. She watched him carefully, her 4 eyes blinking one after the other. Her armor still glowed faintly, but the energy in her blades had faded. Her body was built for battle, but something inside her looked tired. "I heard your voice," Ethan said quietly. "You said you were tired of killing." The warrior looked down for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. Her voice was soft but deep, coming from behind the mask. "I did not choose this war. My people did. I follow the law. I fight because I must. But I never wanted to destroy your kind." Ethan's fingers trembled around the recorder. She didn't sound like a monster. She sounded human, not in body, but in pain and regret. He took a step forward. She did not raise her weapon. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, curious. No human had ever walked toward her without fear. "Why are you here?" she asked. "I wanted to know if the voice was real. I had to see if there was something behind the armor, something more than the killer they all fear." She turned her face away for a second. The wind caught the edges of her dark cloak. She looked like a ghost from another world. Then she turned back and removed her helmet. Ethan stared. She was not hideous. She was not a beast. Her skin was a soft gray, her features sharp but not cruel. The four eyes blinked gently, two on top and two below. And though her face held scars, it also held sadness. "You think I'm beautiful?" she asked, a strange tone in her voice. It wasn't pride. It wasn't mockery. It was confusion, as if no one had ever said such a thing to her. Ethan blinked, surprised by her question, but he nodded. "Yes, I don't mean it just in how you look. I mean something inside you, something real." She looked away again. One of her upper eyes closed slowly. "On my world, I am not beautiful. I am a weapon, designed to be feared, respected, but never loved." Ethan took another step closer. They stood only a few feet apart now. "Maybe that's why you don't belong there anymore." Her grip tightened for a moment, not in threat, but in emotion. She had never known kindness from a human, never been told anything good about herself. This moment felt unreal. Behind them, the distant rumble of engines returned. More human soldiers were coming. The war had not paused. It had only slowed for a breath. "They'll kill you if they see you with me," Ethan warned. "And they'll kill you if they think you spare me," she replied. They looked at each other. A strange connection now existed between them. Neither fully trusted the other, but neither wanted to lose this moment. She stepped back and activated her cloak. Her figure shimmered and faded until only her eyes remained visible, glowing like twin stars in the shadows. "Go," she said. "I will meet you again, if you still want to understand me." "I do," Ethan said without hesitation. Then she vanished completely, leaving only footprints in the ash and the soft echo of her words in the wind. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He lay on a worn cot in the underground shelter, staring at the ceiling. The air was thick with smoke and silence. His mind kept returning to her face. The alien warrior was supposed to be a nightmare. She was supposed to be cruel, heartless, and cold. But the truth he saw was different. He had seen doubt in her eyes. He had seen something broken beneath the steel. He remembered the way her voice changed when he called her beautiful. It wasn't pride. It wasn't happiness. It was shock, as if no one had ever said anything kind to her. The next morning, Ethan ignored the new orders. He avoided the troops, kept his head down, and left the base on foot. He walked alone through burned villages and shattered roads. He searched for her, though he had no plan. Hours passed. The sun was hidden behind clouds of ash. He climbed over a collapsed bridge and entered a ruined city. Fire still burned in the windows of broken towers. He heard a noise behind him. Quick, soft steps. Not like a soldier. Not like a human. He turned slowly, already knowing who it was. She stood in the shadow of a crumbled wall. Her cloak flickered with light. Her helmet was gone. Her expression was unreadable. But her eyes, those glowing eyes, watched him with quiet interest. "You came," she said. Ethan nodded. "I told you I would. I want to understand you. I want to know who you are beneath the armor." She stepped closer. "No one has ever asked that before. Not even my own people." He looked at her carefully. Her skin shimmered slightly in the fading light. The scars across her cheek seemed older than the war. "What is your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then spoke softly. "Karine." Ethan repeated it. "Karine, that's a strong name. Does it mean something?" "It means silent storm in my language." "Fitting," they said, "because I kill without sound." "But you don't want to kill," Ethan said. "No, I want to be more than a blade. But I don't know how," she replied. They sat together in silence near a broken statue. Smoke curled in the sky above. For the first time, she let her hands rest freely. The blade on her arm stayed closed. Her posture relaxed. Ethan handed her a small packet of dried food. She looked at it with confusion, then slowly took it. "I've never eaten human food," she said. "You don't have to like it," Ethan replied. "Just try it. It's not poisoned." She gave a small nod and tasted it. Her face remained calm, but her lower eyes blinked twice in surprise. "It's not terrible." Ethan smiled. High praise from a war machine. She glanced at him. "Don't call me that. I'm trying not to be one anymore. He looked at her seriously. Then don't act like one. Let them see you're more than they fear. She stood slowly and looked toward the burning horizon. They won't listen. Your kind and mine only understand war. Peace is spoken in whispers that get buried beneath shouting. Then whisper louder, Ethan said. She looked down at him with something close to a smile. You speak strangely, human, but your words stay in my mind. Suddenly, a sound echoed from the distance. Dropships. Human ones. Soldiers were coming again. Kareen turned toward the dark alley. Go, she said. If they see us together, they'll shoot both of us. Ethan stood. Will I see you again? Kareen didn't answer. She stepped into the dark and vanished into the ruins like a breath lost in the wind. Ethan returned to the underground bunker with dirt on his boots and smoke in his hair. He looked like any other survivor, quiet and tired. But inside his mind, a storm of thoughts raged. He had spoken to Kareen again. She wasn't just real. She was changing. She had doubts, regrets, and questions. And now Ethan carried something no one else had seen. Hope. He sat at his desk, rewired the old signal tower, and began crafting a message. Not one of war, but of truth. A voice log, a signal. Anything to prove that the enemy had a heart. But the moment he tried sending it through the system, red lights blinked across the screen. Blocked, flagged, intercepted. The military didn't want peace. They wanted silence. An officer arrived within minutes. He scanned the logs, stared hard at Ethan, and growled, You're tampering with restricted files. This is treason. Ethan didn't flinch. I'm trying to save lives. If even one of them doesn't want this war, isn't that worth hearing? The officer smashed his fist on the table. They're monsters. Every last one. You think because one of them blinked kindly, she's your friend? She'll gut you the second you turn. Ethan was thrown into a holding cell. Cold walls. No windows. Just silence. He sat there, heart pounding, knowing Kareen had risked herself for their talk. Now, he had to do the same. In the shadows of the war, word of a human traitor began to spread. But so did a rumor, a whisper, that the ghost blade had spared someone, that she had spoken. Kareen heard the rumors too. Hidden in the ruins, she intercepted human frequencies. She heard the name Ethan spoken with confusion and anger, and something inside her twisted. She watched the patrol pass through the ruins. Humans shouting orders. One of them called Ethan a fool. Another called him brave. But none of them knew the truth. She made her way through the ruined tunnels. Silent steps. Blades retracted. Her cloak blending with shadows. Her path led beneath the ground, toward the place where the humans kept their secrets. She found the cell block easily. One guard. Sleeping. She moved without sound, entered the system, and unlocked the door. Ethan looked up as she entered. For a second, he thought he was dreaming. But then he saw her eyes glowing in the dark. Kareen, he whispered. She didn't smile. She only nodded. You risked everything for a truth they didn't want. I couldn't let them bury you. He stood slowly. You came for me? You came for me first, she said. They moved through the tunnels, avoiding lights and sensors. When they reached the outside, Ethan looked back at the base. They'll come after me now. Then stay hidden. With me, Kareen said. Ethan followed her into the wilderness. They camped under broken skies. She showed him how to avoid patrols. He showed her how to filter water. They shared silence and soft words. She began to speak more. About her people. About the commanders who controlled her. About the battles she didn't choose. And Ethan listened, not as an enemy, not as a soldier, but as someone who saw her truth and didn't run. Each day, Kareen's voice grew clearer. Each night, her armor felt lighter, and deep in her chest, something old and forgotten began to awaken. She no longer felt like a weapon. She felt like someone. Days passed in silence, broken only by distant gunfire and the soft hum of patrol ships. Ethan and Kareen hid in the outer ruins of what was once a university. Ivy still clung to cracked walls, and broken screens flickered with static. Kareen moved carefully through the rubble. Her cloak still worked, but she used it less now. She didn't want to hide every part of herself. Not from Ethan. They sat together one evening beside the burned library. Ethan showed her books he had saved. Old pages, some torn, some faded. She turned each page gently, as if holding a life she didn't want to break. "These are stories?" she asked. "Yes, some true, some made up. All of them have meaning," Ethan replied. Karine held a book of poetry. Her fingers traced lines. "Your people dream even during war. My people erased dreams long ago." Ethan looked at her face. "Do you want to dream again?" She didn't answer with words. Her lower eyes closed. Her upper eyes stared at the stars peeking through the ash. The silence between them was full of questions, but others were watching. Far above, a Zevra scout ship had picked up strange energy patterns. A cloak signal. Faint but familiar. They sent a message back to command. Karine's former leader, Commander Veldar, received the alert. His jaw tightened. Ghost Blade is active, but she has not reported in. Send hunters. If she's gone rogue, she must be ended. Hunters were not ordinary soldiers. They were born to track, trained to kill their own if needed. And now, 3 were dispatched with one mission. Find Karine and erase the shame. Back on Earth, Karine sensed something was coming. Her instincts, sharpened by years of war, flared inside her. She stood and scanned the sky. "They've found me," she said. Ethan stood too. "We can run." "No, they'll track me across planets. Running only delays it. We must prepare together." They set traps around the ruined building. Not high-tech. Simple things. Wire. Broken glass. Old mines left from the first invasion. Karine handed Ethan a pulse rifle. "Can you shoot?" "I've practiced, but I don't want to kill." "Neither do I," she said softly. The night came fast. The wind howled through the broken windows. Then, without sound, the hunters arrived. 3 shadows. 3 killers. No mercy in their eyes. Karine stood in the open. Her blades extended. Her armor lit with a soft glow. She looked like the warrior they once knew. But something in her stance had changed. One hunter stepped forward. "You abandoned the code. You spoke to prey. You touched weakness." Karine raised her head. "I found something better than orders. I found truth." The hunter lunged. Karine met the strike with perfect speed. Metal clashed. Sparks flew. The trap line was triggered. One explosion knocked the second hunter into rubble. Ethan fired once. A clean shot. Not to kill, but to disarm. The third hunter spun, wounded. Karine struck hard, forcing him back. For the first time, they were not winning. The first hunter fell. The second retreated. The third vanished into shadow. Karine breathed heavily. Her armor cracked, but her eyes steady. Ethan rushed to her side. "Are you hurt?" "Not enough to stop," she said with a faint smile. They had survived the hunters. But Karine knew more would come. And this time, they would bring more than blades. The stars above burned faintly behind layers of smoke. Karine sat on a ledge beside Ethan. Her armor cracked and dusty. Her cloak lay beside her, torn by battle. She had survived the hunters. But more would come. Ethan checked the old comlink he had restored. The signal was weak, but it still worked. "If we want anyone to hear your story, now is the time," he said. Karine looked at the broken transmitter. "Even if I speak, will they believe me?" "They don't have to believe right away. They just need to listen," Ethan said. He adjusted the controls and pointed the dish toward the mountain range. From there, the signal could bounce to multiple towers still operating under backup power. Karine stepped forward. Her voice had shouted commands and warnings in battle, but now she spoke softly. Her tone held no threat, only truth. "I am Karine of the Zevra. I was trained to kill. I was told humans were beasts. I believed it, until one of them looked at me and did not run. He spoke kindly. He listened." Ethan stood silently beside her. He didn't touch the controls. He let her voice go through raw, unfiltered. The static only made it more real. "I was feared on battlefields. I was a shadow that ended lives. But I was never asked what I wanted. I never chose this war. I only obeyed, Karine continued, her fingers clenched slightly, not in anger, in pain, the pain of memory, the weight of choices never made. I now stand with the one I was told to kill. And I tell you this, not all of us want war. Some of us want more. Peace begins when one side listens. Even in a whisper, she said. Ethan ended the transmission. The message was short, powerful. He hoped someone out there had heard it. Far away, in secret command bunkers, screens lit up, officers frowned. Generals leaned closer. Soldiers paused as the voice of the ghost blade played across frequencies. Some laughed, some shouted, some stared in silence. But no one ignored it. The voice of fear had become a voice of truth. Among the Zevra, the reaction was worse. Karine's voice was declared poison. Her name was removed from the rolls of honor. Her face was marked as a traitor. But others among them hesitated. Young soldiers. Quiet ones. Those who had always wondered if there was more than orders. They listened again to her voice. Karine and Ethan moved to a new hiding place. A forgotten hangar buried under sand and stone. They repaired old equipment, salvaged supplies, and waited. One night, a sound came through the speaker. A single message. Human, female, calm voice. We heard you. We believe you. Tell us what to do next. Ethan looked at Karine. You did it. Someone heard you. Karine didn't smile, but her eyes softened. One is enough to begin. More messages followed, from different zones, human outposts, civilians. Even an old Zevra signal bounced through. I remember your name. I remember your silence. You speak now, and I am listening. The war had not ended. Bombs still fell. Ships still fought. But something had changed. A crack had opened in the wall between enemy and ally. Ethan and Karine stood together in the hangar. She placed her hand on the console, her fingers brushing his. You helped me find my voice, she said. You helped me see your truth, he replied. Above them, for the first time in weeks, the stars blinked without smoke. The message Karine sent had become a spark. It jumped across enemy lines and whispered through hidden channels. Though the war raged on, something invisible had begun to move. Ethan and Karine listened to the new voices each night. Some were brave, some were broken, some cried, some only sent silence, yet even silence held meaning now. A group of human resistance fighters reached out. They had lost families, friends, and hope. But after hearing Karine, they questioned what they were fighting for. They asked for a meeting. Karine hesitated. They may trap us. Ethan nodded. They may, but they may not. And if they're willing to talk, we must answer. They arranged to meet in the ruins of an old train station. Half the roof was gone. Vines had crawled up through broken stone. Rain fell through the gaps, soft and steady. Karine stood openly under the broken arch. She wore no helmet. Her armor was dull and scarred, but she held no weapon in her hands. The humans arrived slowly. 4 of them, eyes sharp, guns ready but not raised. One stepped forward, a woman with a burnt jacket and a scar down her neck. I saw you kill 50 men, she said. Karine didn't look away. I remember them. I remember all of them. Why are you here now? The woman asked. To stop it. To stop all of it, Karine answered. The woman looked at Ethan. Why do you trust her? Because she let me live when she didn't have to. Because she chose to speak when silence was easier, Ethan replied. The woman lowered her gun. Then we'll speak too. For now. They sat around a small fire. Wet logs sizzled. Steam rose into the air like ghosts trying to escape. Karine told her story. Not grand. Not proud. Just real. She spoke of her training, her battles, her doubts. She told them how Ethan looked at her, without fear. How his voice broke through her silence. The resistance fighters listened. Some still watched her carefully. But one nodded. Then another. Then the woman with the scar said, maybe it's time we stop calling every alien a monster. From that moment, a small alliance began to form. Not official. Not signed. But real. a line of trust built on truth instead of orders. But far above them, in orbit, the Zevra command watched the signals. They saw the defected warrior. They saw the humans listening. And they made their final choice. Destroy the region, Commander Veldar said. Let no one speak her name again. A cruiser moved into position. Its cannons powered up. The target zone glowed on its map. 1 city, 5 towns, a rebel base, and somewhere among them, Kareen. Ethan picked up a strange frequency. A pattern. Something's coming, he said. Kareen read the data. It's an orbital strike. They mean to erase everything. Not just me. Everyone who heard me. Ethan looked up. We have to stop them. She nodded. Then we don't run this time. We rise. Together, they sent out one final signal. Not a whisper. A shout. A warning. A call to anyone who believed. Anyone who still had strength to stand. The message was simple. They're coming to silence us. If you hear this, help us stop them. All across the system, radios crackled. Heads turned. Hands gripped weapons. Old enemies looked up and asked themselves what they now believed. And somewhere in the dark sky, a human fleet that had once turned away from Earth changed course. The sky above Earth lit up as the Zevra cruiser broke through clouds. Its weapons charged with silent power. Below, cities prepared for death, not rescue. The people didn't know they had a chance until the message came through. Ethan's broadcast reached farther than they expected. Ships that had stayed hidden in old hangars powered up. Civilians with old radios passed the message hand to hand. And in deep space, a human fleet turned back toward their home. Kareen watched the radar screen. The strike will begin in minutes. If we don't stop that cruiser, this world burns. Ethan turned to her. Then we stop it. Together, the resistance fighters moved quickly. Old weapons were rearmed. Generators powered up one final shield. The energy it produced wouldn't hold forever, but it would buy time. Above them, the cruiser opened its bay. The cannon pointed downward. Its light began to glow with deadly heat. Kareen stepped onto the tower's edge. Her voice calm, strong and clear. This is Kareen of the Zevra. You are about to murder those who chose peace. Stand down, or face the ones you once feared. Her words reached the Zevra crew. Some laughed, some ignored, but one pilot hesitated. He remembered her. He remembered her silence before every battle. Now she spoke with fire in her voice. The human fleet broke through the cloud wall. Their formation was small, but their hearts were ready. They fired first, striking the cruiser's hull. The Zevra answered with burning light. A space battle unfolded above Earth. Ships danced between fire and smoke. The ground below shook as falling pieces landed in flames. Still, Kareen stood tall, her eyes on the stars. Ethan worked the ground system, linking every satellite they had. We can blind the cruiser for 10 seconds. That's all our fighters need. Kareen nodded. Do it. Make those seconds count. The signal pulsed. For 10 full seconds, the Zevra cruiser's vision turned white. Human ships flew fast, fearless, and struck the center with all their force. The cannon cracked. The light died. The ship began to fall. On board, some Zevra fled. Others refused. But one captain pressed the emergency beacon and surrendered. He had heard Kareen, and for the first time he believed her. The wreck of the cruiser landed in the ocean. No city was harmed. The world held its breath. Then it cheered. Ethan dropped to his knees beside the radio. He had done what they called impossible. He had made someone listen. Kareen stood above the bunker. Her armor was cracked. Her blades were gone. But her voice had won a war that guns could not. Later, in a meeting of humans and Zevra, she stood before both. No longer a weapon. No longer a ghost. Just a warrior who chose to speak. Peace is not given by command. It is chosen. And I chose it. So, can you? The room stayed quiet. Then, one by one, voices agreed. Not with shouts. Not with fear. But with hope. Ethan sat beside her. You changed everything. She looked at him. No. You saw something I never knew was inside me. He smiled. You asked me once why I thought you were beautiful. Now you know. She nodded gently. Her 4 eyes blinked softly. Now I know. And in that moment, on a planet once broken by war, peace was no longer a dream. It was the truth they both had spoken into life.